Welcome to the Practical Permaculture Podcast, your weekly dose of gardening, intentional living, and all things permaculture, served with a side of fun and plenty of great conversations. I'm your host, Elise, and together we'll dig into practical tips, chat with experts, and explore ways to cultivate a more abundant, sustainable life. Let's get growing. Okay, so this is part 2 of our house build mini episode in our season break. So last week I spoke about some of the decisions, more kind of external, I guess, like the sun, the wind, where we positioned our house, those kinds of things. But this week, I think I'll kind of maybe go through the permaculture principles a little bit and then how they were used to help make decisions and what other things we've added to our design to make it more sustainable, ecological, and look at it from a permaculture lens. So I kind of didn't touch on access the first episode, so I'll touch on that to begin with. Like I said, the house was dictated based on where our services were going to be, but we also actually made sure we had access in terms of where the driveway is, turning circles, how to get in and out of places, where our zero turn mower would fit between like fences and the house and the septic and those kinds of things. So access was a big part, along with fences, so where our fences are to then create sections within our property and how that would kind of flow. So that was quite important to us, and access did dictate to a large part how the house was positioned and designed. We've also got a tiny home on the property, so allowing easy access to that as well was important. So yeah, that was something I didn't mention in the first episode. Going through the permaculture principles though, obtain a yield / catch and store energy / use and value renewable resources is kind of the first thing I want to talk about. So we will be installing some really big water tanks. We've got 2 big ones that will go behind the shed, and so they will catch the water from the roof of the house and the roof of the shed. There's a really good calculator, I'll put it in the show notes, to tell you how big your roof space is, what your annual rainfall is, and then it kind of reverse engineers how big your water tanks could be, or your holding capacity should be, to be able to catch the water that will fall on the roof. We're also going to put IBCs in particular areas, the chicken coop when we get it, and the wood storage bay, to then capture more water in different areas. So the more water we can catch and store, the better. And obviously it's a resource that we want to try and keep on the property for as long as possible. In terms of that too, we're also using our grey water. So we've got a twofold to this. We've got a septic, which is a type of septic that will treat the water and then it gets circulated back through our gardens in particular sections. So it will get reticulated through the back garden, which is going to be flowers, and down our western fence line, which is all natives and habitat for wildlife and insects. So we have chosen not to grow food in those areas. The company says it's 99.9% safe to do so, but we just have chosen to try and keep our food away from our septic as much as possible. Once we get occupancy certificate, please don't be listening, local council, we will also be redirecting some of our grey water once we have our OC and using that in the garden as well. We'll have an outdoor shower and bath, so we'll be capturing that water because that's not going to our septic, and using that to also water various things, and just kind of cycling the water and keeping it on the block and giving it as many uses as possible. And then once we do leave it out of our storage capacity, sinking it and storing it in the land as much as possible is really important to us. We are lucky we have quite a high rainfall here. We chose the area because of that, but we know there will be times of drought and lack of rain. This summer was quite dry for us and we didn't have tanks, and we spent a lot of money on water. Our water bill was nearly the same as our electricity bills, to give you an idea of how much water we went through. The other thing that I'm really lucky is that I work for an off-grid solar company, so we can get a pretty epic solar off-grid setup. We're actually going to do it not completely off-grid. So we will have a switch that we can switch back and forth when we want to. We will eventually have some battery capacity as well. But for the time being, we're going to get a whole heap of panels put on our roof to try and use and obtain that yield of sun to power our house, and then eventually catch and store that energy as well. It's also a renewable resource, so that's really great. The other thing we can use is wind power. So we're not using wind power in a sense of capturing and storing wind power for electricity. We're using our wind power in terms of breezes and making sure that our window and door placement was in the correct spot to then allow cross ventilation to capture breezes on our block. So we kind of sat for a little while and just checked with our local weather stations where the wind came from. So we get a nice southerly in the afternoon that comes off the ocean. So making sure we had big windows on the southern side of our block to make sure that we could get all of that southerly coming through in summer and cooling us down. So using the wind through breeze to cool the house. In terms of like small and slow solutions, the scale of our house is actually quite small for like a modern day house. It's big in terms of the history of houses. Houses were a lot smaller back in the day, but essentially it's an open plan living, kitchen, dining area with 2 bedrooms downstairs, and that's all we'll have to start with. We have kind of future-proofed the house and allowing adaptation of our house to grow as we grow, and using that feedback, knowing what people have told us from having older kids, and what we foresee our experience to be like when our kids are older, that we can change the design of our house over time. So above our bedrooms, we've made it flexible so we can have a mezzanine. So the kids can end up being up in the mezzanine like as a bedroom as they get older. So they're currently going to be sharing a bedroom. As they get older, they'll have separate bedrooms. We could use it as an office. We can use it for family members that might need to come and stay with us for periods of time. So we've tried to make our house as adaptable as we can to change and flow with us as we grow and change as a family, and not go, well, like we've outgrown our house, we're going to have to move. But in terms of square meterage of the entire house, it's only 8 meters wide, and I think it's 15 meters long. So that's the bedrooms and that living space. And then at the other end, opposite the bedrooms, we have a mudroom. The mudroom is not going to be a traditional mudroom. It's going to be a jack of all trades room. So again, using adaptation, being flexible, being able to use that as a multifunctional space. So it's a mudroom where we can go and drop our dirty clothes when we've been in the garden all day, put our boots to dry if we need to, hang up our wet, raincoats if we've been outside all day. So there's a door that comes into that mudroom externally from the garden space. The laundry is in there as well, so we can dump it straight into the laundry, or at least derobe and get rid of all of our dirt and crap and not drag it through the house. There'll be cupboard storage in there as well, so we can use that to store things. There will be bench space, so I can use that for pickling, preserving, etc., because I'll have a sink in there for the laundry, so I can either wash vegetables and things like that in there, but I can also preserve in there, put up my, I call it Fowler's method I'm hoping to buy, put that in there so it's out of the way. Maybe the slow cooker in there so it doesn't take up kitchen space, especially if we're using the kitchen as like an area for the kids to do their homework or for socializing. So we're trying to make the kitchen and the mudroom multifunctional in that way. We're not going to have, it's not a butler's pantry, like a modern butler's pantry where people would have, an extra fridge in there, or the coffee making station, or a extra dishwasher. Like none of that crap. We're literally just going to be a very functional space. So we've designed it to an inch of its life to make sure that it can perform multiple functions. We've made sure there's lots of power points in there. We're going to use that as a room to keep all of our devices and charge our devices at night time so that we can put them away and not have them influence us when we're trying to relax. We have extra power points in there to charge, your vacuum cleaners and all those kind of mod cons that you have in your house. There's little locker things for the kids to put their bags and their shoes. So like we've really designed and thought about how that space will fit our needs best. There's hooks to hang things to dry. We're going to have some narrow shelving on the back wall to have all the preserving jars there rather than in the kitchen space. And it's going to be open shelving so we can clearly see what needs using up, if anything's gone bad. So yeah, it'll be a very interesting space, and I'm hoping very functional, but it's quite small. It's very narrow, but it goes nearly the whole length of the building. And then there's a door on the other side to access it through the kitchen, so we can access it externally and internally from the house. So I'm actually looking forward to that room, and I've actually had a lot of fun designing it because it's making me really push the envelope as to what we need and what that will feel like in there. And then in terms of like small and slow solutions, as well as local products, I guess you can say, is we've tried to source a lot of things locally. So I have been scouring the internet for a lot of building materials. Our windows can't be secondhand. We've got to have them made to measure in advance because it's a steel structure, so we can't change where our windows are readily. So that's all set in stone. I couldn't source those secondhand, but things like our bathtub, our tapware, tiles, all of our tiles, I'm really trying to find as much as I can online, especially for small splashback areas where I don't need a large volume. So our our toilet is separate to our bathroom so that we can go to the toilet and have a shower, or have guests go to the toilet if the kids, or we're in the shower. So we've separated our toilet and our bath space. So yeah, the splashback for that, the splashback for the laundry, maybe even the kitchen splashback. I found a couple of bulk tile places that will sell secondhand things. The laundry sink, like all those fixings inside, we've tried to find secondhand. I'm a bit of a design nerd, so I like things to be very aesthetical and very matchy and have that coherence through the house. So it's a bit challenging for me to try and make sure they all do match, because I don't know, that's like important to me. It might sound silly from a sustainability point of view, but I like things to look pretty and I like things to be cohesive. So it's that balancing act, and it's also kind of pushing me out of my comfort zone a little bit too, to kind of think outside the box and how I can creatively solve some of these perceived issues that I have with the house design. I mean, we have 1.5 acres. We could have had this huge sprawling house with lots of bedrooms and wings, and that was part of the design to start with before permaculture came into the picture, and we were designing our dream house. But as we learnt what was valuable to us, and an episode on future steading, I'll put the link in the show notes, really helped with that. They talked to an architect who specialized in that. And so she was like, okay, that extra bedroom, what would that cost financially? What would that mean for you having to work? And kind of reframing the size of your house to how much money it would cost to do that thing, and then how that would translate to your time and what's more valuable, to be at work or be with your family. So yeah, that was really interesting and stretchy for me, and it definitely reduced the house size. I mean, our deck space is nearly the same as our internal living space, because we know that outside's going to be a priority for us. We'll have a sink outside, we'll have a barbecue and a dining kind of area outside, because we know those things are things that we will use a lot. But we didn't have to have an enormous lounge. We didn't have to have enormous bedrooms. We've really cut down the size of what, a traditional house would be, even though we had that option to have a big sprawling house because we are on acreage. This one was interesting too, creatively use and respond to change. So we are owner builders, which means we do have somewhat of flexibility in how we can respond to change as the building pops up. We're living on site, so it means we can make decisions with the trades and the people that we are contracting to make changes and make decisions on the fly. I have a grand kind of plan in my head of all the materials and things and the order of what's going to happen. But if things do pop up, we are able to change quite quickly and make those decisions because we're doing it as owner builders. So that's been a conscious decision for us to be very involved in the build. And I've touched on integrate rather than segregate, or things performing many functions with the mudroom, but our outdoor spaces will also be that for us. So we will have an outdoor sink and an outdoor bench, so we can do a lot of outdoor cooking. It can be like a second kitchen almost. It can be a processing area for the vegetables we're bringing inside. It can be an area for teaching and learning. It can be an area for socializing. It has that multifunctional use. I could do preserving out there. I could put the slow cooker on out there. We also are looking at getting chickens, and I'd like that area to be able to be used to maybe dispatch chickens or other little animals that we might have on the property. So yeah, a multifunctional space out there I think is really important. It's a good use of resources and money, and I think it will get utilized a lot. And so we're going to have chickens in the future. I want to be able to dispatch chickens or potentially other small little animals, quails, things like that we might have on the property. So it's really important to me that that area is multifunctional. I think it's a really good investment of money in that space to make it be multifunctional. And yeah, I think it'll be an amazing social area as well for us to be able to dine and eat out there and host family and friends, and it'll be a very communal space. It's very connected to the garden and other areas on the property. So yeah, but that's kind of my take on it. I mean, some people will be listening to this and poo-pooing the fact that we've used concrete for the slab. That's not very environmental, someone might say, but that's the thing I love about permaculture. It's not scriptive. It's not you must do this, you must stir this clockwise or anti-clockwise, or do this particular method at this time of the year, or you must live like this. It is purely contextual. So you make decisions based on your context, how you live. You can take and leave whatever you want. It's not scriptive. So you get to decide. You can observe and think about the considerations and how those considerations will impact your life in time, energy, money, etc., and then pick and choose what you implement. So I think that's really important to note, that not everyone's going to agree with the decisions I've made or that we've made as a family, and that's totally fine, because that's what permaculture is all about. So I hope that was useful and interesting. Some other resources you might consider is for those who are either in urban areas or already have an existing building and you want to retrofit your property. Retro Suburbia is a really good place to start, by David Holgram. So he wrote a big, thick book. Most libraries will have it, so you can rent it from a library. It has lots and lots of practical everyday solutions for retrofitting your house. That's all for me. We are back next week with a regular episode. In the meantime, though, it would greatly help us if you could rate us on your streaming platform, or even write a review, because it helps us reach more people, and that's what we really want to do. Spread the word, get people thinking, get people involved with permaculture and permaculture thinking, and connect like-minded people all around Australia, maybe even the world. We're currently ranked really high for permaculture searches, but not everyone will search permaculture when they go to listen to a podcast. They might search sustainable living or gardening or these kinds of words that are connected to permaculture, but it's not actually what our podcast is called. So the more reviews we can get, the more people will get that pushed out to them. So it would be much appreciated if you could leave a review on Apple, or I don't know if you can on Spotify. I should look that up. But definitely if you can rate us and follow us. Following us will really help too. It doesn't cost you anything. It just means that you'll get updates when our episodes drop each week, and reminders when we do have episodes come out. You might have listened to last week's episode and thought, oh, that's it for the season. But then I snuck 2 little mini episodes in there. So your phone will ping and tell you that there is another episode ready for you to listen to, when I just go off the cuff and decide to release extra episodes. Yes, thanks. And I will see you next week.